watch on our president and who's keeping watch on our Congress? Well, I'll tell you who, because today I have one of the people here representing one of the top think tanks in the nation, Becky Norton Dunlop, and she's with Vice President of Heritage Foundation, right?
I am indeed.
And the very famous Heritage Foundation, worldwide, known worldwide. Tell me about the Heritage Foundation.
Well, the Heritage Foundation, I brought a little brochure to show everyone, is a research and education, nonprofit, nonpartisan organization based on Capitol Hill. We have a great team of people who do research on all kinds of domestic issues, economic issues, foreign policy issues, and defense issues. And they're looking for solutions for the problems that are facing our country and indeed our world that are based on 5 key principles. Individual freedom. You might think about that when you think about the Heritage Foundation. We're for individual freedom. Private enterprise. The private enterprise system has come up with solutions to almost every problem that we face in the marketplace, and we need to protect that private enterprise and the entrepreneurs. In fact, I was just over at your state capitol today. Entrepreneurs were getting awards. We need more entrepreneurs in Hawaii.
That's for sure.
Then the third area is limited government. If government is growing, freedom is shrinking. And so we believe that the Constitution got it right, that we should limit the powers of the national government, and indeed I would say limit the powers of the state government. And then we're for a strong national defense. When Heritage started 40 years ago, it meant something different than it does today. Now we have the terrorism threat as well as the international threats. And then, of course, traditional values. And in America, in the United States of America, traditional values includes marriage between one man and one woman. Family is the building block of society. Free expression of for the people, the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press. So those traditional values are important, and we champion solutions based on those key principles. And that we do that, we work, every day, and we've got a great team of people, and we love doing that work for all those citizens who agree with us.
Well, a lot of, all around the country we hear about the Heritage Foundation on various TV shows, talk radio shows. You're up at Capitol Hill, you have a big impact on, I remember following around for a story one time, one of your people that was just talking to legislators, educating them on various issues, and they know what they're doing. I mean, they've been there. We have some pretty well-known people in the Heritage Foundation, right?
Well, we do. Ed Meese, who served as Attorney General of the United States, is there running our legal program, and he has a team of lawyers, several of whom have experience over in Capitol Hill, some in the federal government, some in the private sector, which is always good experience to have. Elaine Chao is a senior fellow there, former Secretary of Labor. She does a great job for us thinking about how do we face the 21st century and keep more people at work. And of course, what do we have today? A big challenge. People can't get jobs.
That's a top issue right now, jobs.
It's a top issue, jobs.
Right.
So Elaine, Secretary Chao does that. I served in the Reagan administration and in state government in an environmental post. And we know that you can come up with solutions to environmental challenges using these principles that I talked about, limited government, free markets, encouraging people to come up with solutions themselves. Kim Holmes, our Vice President for Foreign Policy, served as an Assistant Secretary of State, so he has a real-life experience too. So we've got a great team of people, and the thing that I would say that's so wonderful about working at Heritage is all of the people on our team share these common principles. What did the founders believe made America great? We believe those same things today. And so working together, collaborative, we try to come up with solutions.
So if we're talking about jobs being a big issue, do you think that's the top issue right now in the country? What is the main focus of the Heritage Foundation in terms of policy right now?
Well, I would say the economy, of course, is huge. It's the top of everybody's list. It's a big concern. The greatest tragedy that we can face is when people who want to work are unable to get jobs because the government's tax burden, the government's health care mandates, other mandates by the federal government discourage small business people from hiring. And the small business person in America today is the one who creates the jobs. So when they get these mandates from Washington, they have to make choices. Am I going to continue to do what I do today and pay the employees I have, or am I going to hire someone new? The answer is I'm not hiring anyone. So the economy is huge. Of course, Obamacare as it's come to be called. This is socialized medicine, mandated from Washington, D.C. This is a big topic for us. We produced this book recently with some colleagues, Why Obamacare is Wrong for America. And this is the kind of publication that every small business person in Hawaii should get and read.
How can they get it? Because you distribute it through Heritage.
Well, and it'll also be available in the marketplace, in the bookstores, but you can get it through the Heritage Foundation. But this actually goes through and talks about some of the things that were in the bill. If you will remember, and I know you remember this because I know you're a good reporter, Nancy Pelosi said we have to pass this bill so we can read it and find out what's in it.
I do remember that. That was very
shocking.
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 Right. Yeah.
And this book talks about some of the things that are in it and some of the circumstances we've seen already. For instance, this whole idea the President and Pelosi and Reid said would work for all Americans. And according to the research that we found, by the end of 2010, HHS had already granted at least 733 waivers to companies, big companies like McDonald's, and interestingly enough, to a number of labor unions.
So meaning that they don't have to participate.
Exactly. They have waivers. They might be particular in what they've asked for waivers for. But the point is, they passed this bill mandating it on all Americans, and now they're picking favorites and saying, well, you don't need to do this. This is wrong, wrong, wrong. And you know, I really want to encourage people to get a copy of this book, read it. I know that you will, and talk to people about what's in this bill and why it needs to be repealed.
Well, I've also seen on your website as well, I think it's heritage.org.
Yes, that's correct.
Many essays about Obamacare and some of the problems with doctors are finding and things like that with coverage and you know, how it's impacting their practice. And
yes, it's a discouragement to doctors. When doctors are discouraged, they still can make choices. And the last thing we need in this country is for doctors to make the choices to quit being doctors.
Right.
You know, we already know that people who want to get in to see a doctor oftentimes have to wait. We don't need fewer doctors, we need more doctors. And when you pass a piece of legislation like this, it basically gives the doctors the back of the hand and says, now we, the federal government, will make judgments. Forget all the things you know, forget about your interest in your patients. We will make decisions and mandate them. It's a travesty.
Well, there's a little confusion in Hawaii. In fact, I'd say even a lot of confusion in Hawaii because we had the Prepaid Healthcare Act, which was much more, maybe even more intense than the Obamacare. And so when they were trying to pass Obamacare, our congresspeople said, oh, you already have Prepaid Healthcare Act, and that's way better. Of course, they think it's way better than Obamacare. So, you know, so we're still unclear. How is it going to impact Hawaii? Do we have an exemption? On what part of it do we have an exemption? Because it's not just about health care and forcing people to buy insurance. It's also about, there's also some other very unusual regulations in there.
Yes, there are.
Tell us about that.
You know, actually there are
that
so
have nothing
many
to do with health care, right?
There's so many things in this bill that are bad. It's just almost hard to even begin talking about it on your television program today.
We don't have 2 hours.
That's
right?
exactly
or
right.
3 hours.
Or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that the reason I think small business people need to get this book and read it, it is going to discourage small business people from hiring new people, because coming down the road is going to be a part of this law says if you don't offer health insurance to your employees, you will be fined. Well, what does that say to you? Well, that says to you, don't hire new people. You know, there are so many mandates in this law. We're still uncovering things that weren't expressed and explained to the American people in advance.
How many pages was the bill?
The bill was, I believe, over 2,000 pages.
Right.
One of the interesting points that they make in this book, I can't put my finger on it right away, was that the first Medicare bill, I think, was like 137 pages, resulting in 200,000 pages of regulations. So you can imagine what a 2,000-page bill will result.
Oh,
in.
boy.
We won't
That's
be able
a lot
to
of
read.
paper.
We won't be able to read all of those.
That's a lot of
pages.
trees.
That's exactly. Well,
don't you focus on environmental policy?
yes, well, I would say that for a good environmental policy, we don't want to have 2,000-page bills.
Right, exactly.
And all the regulations to go with it.
Right.
But Heritage works on things like this, and we really want to encourage all of the people who watch your program. They're watching because they care. They care about their families, and they care about their community. You know, Hawaii can pass a health care bill, and we might sit here and say, well, it really wasn't a great bill. But it's not mandated on the people of California or Virginia. What we're talking about is something that the President and Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid said, we really don't care what the Hawaiian people think. We're going to mandate this bill on, and if you don't like it, you're going to have to send your governor groveling to us to get a waiver.
And of course, our governor and President Obama are very good friends.
And he may get a waiver then.
I don't know if he'll want one.
He may not want one.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Right.
In other words, the people will no longer be in control
Right.
of their health care and have a relationship with their doctor.
Our people might want one, but I don't think, you know, they're friends. What can I say?
That's right.
You know, it's a funny thing with President Obama here because he went to school here. And I don't want to say he was born here because I'm going to get all kinds of mail from people that say he wasn't.
Rumor has it.
Rumor has it, right? But so there's a big popularity rating here. I mean, he went to school here. He comes back here on Christmas vacation,
Sure.
you know, and so it's you know, that a lot of people still. He has a high popularity rating here, although it's going down. You know, we've seen it in the polls going down, but. So anyway, so we'll have to see.
Let me just say that the people of Hawaii, to those of us on the mainland, are viewed as risk takers, entrepreneurs, adventurers, people who have a valuable asset in their islands, and they welcome tourists. They're entrepreneurs. And the more they learn about this man who lived among them for a while, and the kinds of things that he is doing in Washington to them, to preclude them from having these free choices as they live out their lives and as they raise their children. I think they really, really look into the situation. They will say, that is not the kind of person we Hawaiians are. Mm-hmm. We are independent spirits, and we don't want Washington telling us how to live our lives.
You know, Hawaii does have some pretty fabulous entrepreneurs. We had some very amazing businesses come start here and then be purchased, or, you know, you just look at Steve Case. He had a fabulous business that went, you know, international.
Yes, changed the world.
Yep, changed the world. And, you know, we had eBay and with Pierre Omidyar's here. And so, you know, we've had some very successful people.
Yes.
Who have actually gone to the same school as President Obama. So.
And wasn't that a private school?
It is a private school. Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that he went to a private school and has been successful? He sends his two daughters, lovely girls, to private schools, and yet he objects to the parents in Washington, D.C. being able to send their children to private schools.
That's through the voucher controversy,
yes.
right? I know.
It's a great tragedy.
It was interesting to see how, because at first it seemed like he was going to support vouchers. I thought.
Yes, I think the people in Washington, D.C. had the impression that he would be supporting them. And they have been very disappointed and shocked that he would come to Washington, send his girls to a private school, and then say, but you parents in Washington, D.C., many of you are African American, many of you are other minorities, a few of you might even be Caucasian. No, you may not have this option for your children. Great tragedy.
So what are some of the other issues you have? You have education, you have jobs, economy. What do you mostly focus on?
Well, I get to work on all of them. But let me say one of the issues coming down the road is entitlements. These are programs that are kind of automatic payouts to people. And one of the things that we really have to pay attention to is the fact that in just a few short years, the amount that we're paying out to citizens is going to ramp up at a very fast pace, and it will be deadly to our economic well-being. So entitlements is something that the people of Hawaii need to start paying attention to. You know, America was founded with the idea that individuals would take care of themselves and their families, and the government would only be there in a crisis. And the Hawaiian people need to get back to that principle, where each person takes care of themselves and their family, and we only get a check from the government in a crisis. Because the day is going to come pretty soon when, if we don't fix that problem, there aren't going to be checks coming, but there's going to be a lot of checks taken out of the, a lot of money taken out of the Hawaiian's paycheck.
You know, I think we're at a tipping point right now in Hawaii right now. Today at the legislature, there was a big debate about that among the Senate Ways and Means Committee and the governor's new budget director. And they were talking about exactly that. At what point what is the role of government? And actually the Senate, which is 24 Democrats, one Republican, they were actually asking some very good, tough questions of the governor's budget director, who did a fine job answering. But the debate was about how much responsibility should government have? Should all these social programs that are in here trying to get money right now be able to get that money? Should we keep paying for these social programs? Should we keep paying for this growing budget with the state budget? And so I think in Hawaii they actually are starting to finally figure it out. This has been decades and decades and decades of growing government, and now the point will be: do we grow it to the point where this governor really wants to grow to $23 billion over 2 years, which is a huge amount for us, or will it be brought back down so that we can actually afford it? Because we had the tsunami hitting Japan that impacted tourism.
Sure.
We have the Middle East crisis, and we have the highest gas taxes in the nation and the highest gas prices in the nation. And so it's having an impact on our entrepreneurs. It's having an impact on our job market, and on actually what government can do for social programs.
Well, I think it's good that the debate is coming, because we used to talk in Washington, D.C. When Ronald Reagan was president. I worked for President Reagan. It was a great privilege. But we used to talk about how many people were pulling the wagon and how many people were riding in the wagon. And the people pulling the wagon, of course, are the people who are productive. They have companies. They create jobs. They create wealth. They produce something that other people want. They are the ones pulling the wagon. The ones riding in the wagon are the ones that are getting a check from the government for doing nothing. And when you have more people getting a check for doing nothing and riding in that wagon, and fewer people pulling the wagon, the country is going in the wrong direction. And we're about at that tipping point.
And plus the people pulling the wagon get really tired.
They get really tired, and
and there's only so much they can pull.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. That's exactly right.
I think my shoulders hurt.
So we do entitlements, we do education reform, as you mentioned. Energy, we're working on energy. We think that the federal government should not subsidize energy, but that there also is a place for nuclear energy. And of course, that's on the tip of everybody's tongue now as they talk about, well, what's going to happen in Japan. The more development we have of nuclear energy, the more confidence that we can have we'll do a better job and make it even more safe than it is now.
Because some of that technology in Japan, from what I understand, was from the 60s and 70s, and it was actually 50s technology, 60s technology. So the technology today has got to be much better.
Yes, yes, and when you think that it's been
and
40
it survived
years,
all this
yes,
trauma.
Absolutely,
Holy cow.
absolutely, and it's
So far.
also people who are concerned about global climate change. Nuclear power is the way to go. So energy is important, of course. American leadership. What are we doing to provide leadership in the world today? We produced this great book called The Index of Economic Freedom. Ranks every country in the world. We work on foreign policy issues and strong national defense. What are we doing to make sure that America is defended? And that's very important, not only because of the threats from across the seas, let's say, in North Korea, and Iran, where they have dictators who are just crazy. You don't know what they're going to do tomorrow. We need to protect our people from that. But also terrorists who might be crossing our borders or coming in even legally, but for untoward means.
Well, we have a very big concern here about North Korea. We have a lot of people here from Korea, a lot of family members in Korea, and we're also close enough to Korea, some people say, to get hit.
Sure.
So that's a constant concern here. I think people worry about the stability of the country. So what kinds of things do you discuss with, for example, North Korea?
Well, I will say President Reagan undertook the Strategic Missile Defense Program, and the whole idea was that America could defend itself against an incoming missile, knock it out of the sky before it had a chance to explode and kill anyone or damage anyone. He started that program. It's underway. It has fits and starts as presidents come in and go out. the Hawaiian people could have a lot more confidence that they would be defended from a missile being shot at them from North Korea if we had a missile defense that was in place and working, fully deployed. And they should be in contact with every leader that they know and say, where is this missile shield?
We do have, off Kauai, the island of Kauai, we do have a military base there that does testing, and they practice, but I don't know how advanced it is. I'm not sure.
Well, it's coming along very well. We do have some hardened capability, but we've tested recently where we've actually shot missiles up to take something out of the sky, and it's not an explosive. It explodes the incoming missile, but it's like shooting a bullet with a bullet. And we have shown that this technology is working. Now, Heritage produced a film, documentary called 33 Minutes. 33 minutes is the average time it would take for a missile fired from North Korea to hit the U.S.
Wow.
And we
is
need
that
to
Hawaii or is that the mainland U.S.?
I believe that's the mainland, so Hawaii would be more vulnerable. So we need to get this missile defense fully deployed in place where we have missiles that are in the ground, where we have missiles that are on submarines, and eventually where we have lasers in space that can take out enemy missiles fired to hurt anyone. So defense is huge also. So you can see we have a very full plate. We try to be responsive to our fellow think tanks. We work with think tanks here in Hawaii, the Grassroots Institute, and it's wonderful to work with people who are thinking about solving problems, but love freedom. And one of the real privileges of coming to Hawaii is you know that you're going to be in touch with people who love freedom.
We do. We love to surf. We love to drive fast, although we can't because we have so much traffic. We love paved roads, but we can't find any. Nicely paved roads. But we do love our freedom, it's true. And we love the outdoors and the environment.
Yes.
And there's so many wonderful things about Hawaii. We're very lucky.
Well, you're lucky, and the beauty is we have a chance to save liberty and to advance liberty for not only our generation, but the generations that follow. But it does require people to be informed. Go to heritage.org, learn about these issues, contact your members, your elected officials, stay in touch with you, watch this program every week.
Yeah.
Know what's happening and be an informed citizen. And if people do that, I think that we can make great strides toward restoring our nation to the great place we were.
Now, before we end the show, I wanted to talk to you about Ronald Reagan and working for him and his anniversary, but I wanted to just also see, what do you see coming up for the 2012 election and for what's going to happen with Congress? You have the big battle right now between the Republicans that took over the Congress, and are they going to be accountable to the people and keep their promises, and how is that going to work with the Senate that's controlled by Democrats? How are you seeing that balance out?
Well, it's very interesting. Of course, from the Heritage perspective, being nonpartisan, we actually try to reach out to everyone and make our material available to everyone. The newly elected members of the House and Senate seem to be most interested in our work. And we find that very gratifying because they are using it, and it is connecting with their constituents. So I am very optimistic that in the next election we will see additional members of the House and candidates for the Senate who take these principled stands actually get elected. I think that there's a good chance that more people who think this way will be elected in the House. And the more numbers you have in the House, of course, the more quickly you can pass this good legislation. I think the Senate may actually end up with a majority of people who are advocates for the heritage principles, and that would be wonderful. Of course, that's two legs of the three-legged stool that it takes to actually accomplish something in the United States. And there are lots of candidates for president. So Heritage makes itself available to everyone who's running for president. We offer an opportunity to brief them on the issues. We've produced a document called Solutions for America, so everybody has a good agenda. And we look forward to being able to work with a new group of people who are elected in 2012 to actually accomplish things and put in place policies that we've been advocating for a number of years.
So how big is Heritage? Just give people an idea. It seems like you produce paper after study after study, and TV program and video and documentaries. So how do you have Hundreds of
Well, yes, our membership now has gone over 710,000 individuals across the country that support us with a check, at least in the last 18 months. That's kind of our standard. That's pretty big.
That is
That's
big.
pretty big. And it's interesting, though, our budget is about $80 million. That sounds big, but it pales in comparison to what the left, the statists have. And so we're small compared to the left-wing organizations, the statist organizations, the big universities that fund a lot of liberal research. But we feel good about the growth that we've had, and we think that tells us that the American people are conservative and they want to step forward and use a little bit of their disposable income to support a think tank in Washington that's working for them every day.
Well, tell me about Ronald Reagan. What was your experience with working with Ronald Reagan?
Well, it was a great privilege for me. I worked in the White House and spent some time in the personnel office where we actually recruited the cabinet secretaries and the assistant secretaries, right down to the receptionists at the front desks. So I met literally hundreds of people who had supported Reagan for president, and then became deputy assistant to the president for personnel, where I had a meeting with him every week on personnel. My boss and I would go in and sit down with him and go over the list of candidates and explain who they were and what we were recommending to him. And of course he would ask questions, and then he would make decisions about who he was going to appoint to these offices, and we would carry out that guidance. He was very professional but inspiring. You did not have a meeting with Ronald Reagan and not come out inspired. And it was just the greatest privilege of my life to be able to work for him when he was president.
So this is his 100th anniversary, his 100th birthday.
Yeah,
this
that's
year.
right.
There's a lot of anniversary celebrations,
right.
And did you get to participate in any of those?
Yes, I have. In fact, later this month I'll be giving a speech, and I've done this several times this year in honor of President Reagan at somebody who's celebrating a Reagan birthday event. But they had a huge event out at the Reagan Library. People who haven't had an opportunity to visit the Reagan Library, if you go to the mainland, you should. It's in Simi Valley, California, not too far from here.
Yep, it's true.
And it's fabulous.
Plane.
It's fabulous. They do a great job on talking about the history, all the things that happened.
I did get to go there. It is pretty amazing.
Good.
And also the Reagan Ranch. We heard about
Yes, the Reagan Ranch. I'm on that the Board of Governors of the Reagan Ranch. That's up the road in the mountains just above Santa Barbara. People don't believe it when they see it. It's a little stucco house on the top of the mountain, very modest. He built fences out of old railroad ties.
That's amazing. Well, can you believe we're already out of time? So I want to tell everybody to make sure to log on to heritage.org. And I want to thank Becky for joining us today, and make sure you check out their work and buy their book, Obamacare. This is Malia Zimmerman, and this has been News Behind the News. Thank you for joining us today. Aloha.